I have probably seen this movie over 100 times in my life. This movie is me. I don't think I exist as who I am today without this movie. This movie.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can, spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
I'm so happy I came back for this.
Look out.
Here's the Spider-Cast!
Pretty good mask.
Hi, welcome to the Bomb Squad podcast. I'm your host and master of ceremony, Tanner Richard Kraft, and with me I have...
Give him some room to breathe. I'm Austin Sweebleman.
Rein Conversey.
I'm Tim M. Sold.
And coming back for the first time in a few months, it's the return of the king, the god, the king!
It's me. I'm back. Hi. I'm Joseph Rennick, and no Band-Aids.
Whoa! You did it!
And if you couldn't tell by my interpretive dance routine, we are talking about arguably the Marvel movie that truly started it all. Not Iron Man, I'm talking about the movie that paved the path. Sam Raimi's 2002 masterpiece, Spider-Man. I feel very safe in saying all of us here grew up with this movie in some way. I know some of us are closer to old age, 30, than there are others, but even you older people were like, what, 10 at most when this movie came out?
I was like 6.
I was 8.
Yeah, I was 8 when it came out.
Probably like 5. I don't know.
I was 4. So since I feel we all grew up with this, I just want you to share a favorite Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie memory to start. What did Raimi Spider-Man need to you, like, as a cultural force? Austin, I want to start with you.
My favorite Sam Raimi Spider-Man memory is still seeing Spider-Man 2 in the theater for my 10th birthday party with my friends. It was rare for me as a kid to actually get to see a movie with my friends instead of just my parents. But there were like a few times when it felt like stars collided and we walked in on like a masterpiece we all got to share together, like The Dark Knight, Scott Pilgrim, Social Network, and Spider-Man 2. As a cultural force, I think Spider-Man may actually be the most popular and lovable superhero to ever lend himself to film. It always seemed to me that like Superman and Batman would be the most popular superheroes for my entire life. And both of them have had their hands in like elevating the superhero genre in the decades before Spider-Man came out. But Spider-Man pulled box office figures that were consistently unreal. Like, a lot of people bring up Bryan Singer's original X-Men film as another potential start of the modern-day superhero blockbuster, but get this. The highest-grossing X-Men film from that original trilogy did not do as well on the box office charts as the lowest-grossing Spider-Man movie. Unlike Spider-Man or Batman, Spider-Man's a nobody, okay? He's a kid from a public school with a working-class background. In the Raimi films, he's played by this soft-spoken dork. His alter ego is just some normal guy from New York who's like trying to stop crime and protect the people he loves. I think Spider-Man for a long time played like the best into the fantasy of like a relatable person who suddenly gets superpowers. And there's also the psychological thing where like, you know, the suit covers the whole body so it could be anybody under there. That's my 2 cents.
All right, Rein, time to put you on the spot.
So my favorite, it doesn't have to do with my experiences watching the movies. It doesn't have to do with me like running around in the costume as a kid. But it's in fact, while the first movie was coming out, I was about 5, and I distinctly remember a television commercial. It was like a cereal commercial where it's like, oh, get the Spider-Man web shooter with this box of cereal. It's like a little water squirter. And then in the commercial, it would show like a kid at the end. It was like him hanging off from the ceiling with it. It was like, and my 5-year-old brain was like, okay, if I get that thing, if I get the cereal box toy, then I get to to climb to ceilings. I'll become Spider-Man. All right. And then I was really like, oh, I gotta get it. And then, my mom, eventually, she gave it to me this one day. I got it. And one of the biggest disappointments ever was when it's just a f***ing water squirt. It's not doing anything.
I think my parents might still have that water squirter, because I know
we gotta get it to
too.
Rein. We gotta get that. We got to get the 2003 Hulk hands to Rein. We just need to make him happy again. All right, Joe V, I really want to hear from you, because I imagine you got some happy memories for us, right?
I do have some happy memories. This was a really significant movie from my childhood, because this might have been like the most anticipated movie for me ever when I was a kid, because growing up there was two superheroes outside of Spider-Man for me, but Spider-Man was the big one for me. I'm not counting the X-Men because they're kind of a group. I remember being a kid who loved the 60s cartoon and the 90s cartoon. I grew up with those. I don't remember the movie. It might have been the re-release of Spy Kids that my dad took me to see. One of the few memories good that I have with my dad. I remember very vividly that first teaser trailer for this movie. I had no idea it was coming, but they had that really exciting techno Matrix-esque music. I think it was actually on the Matrix soundtrack, and it's blaring, and then all of a sudden cuts to Spider-Man. You see the mask, shoots the web, and then my eyes just kind of lit up. They are making a Spider-Man movie. This is easily one of the most exciting things ever. I loved it. We saw it opening weekend, jam-packed theater. It was people were sitting in the aisles. That's how major this movie was. And just outside of that, just small little things. I had the PS2 game that was based on the movie. I had one of the Lego sets. I think the Lego set that I had was of the robber, him chasing the robber in the wrestling suit. There's a lot of fun, significant memories of that movie with me, but that's just a small little taste of it. So back to you, Tanner.
All right, Tim, as the elder statesman of the group, what's your favorite Sam Raimi Spider-Man memory? And what do you remember as this cultural force?
As someone who is the uncle of 9 children, I've noticed that a lot of kids these days, they have their cartoon versions of the superheroes, but they're very, very aware of the MCU. It's they want to watch the MCU movies, but their parents are no, it's PG-13, you can't watch that. So they get the cartoon version, but they are aware of this bigger version, the big theatrical thing, which we didn't quite have that in the 90s, 2000s. There was some superhero movies back then. There was the Burton and Schumacher Batman movies. There was the X-Men movies and Blade. That was when it really started to pick up speed. And then Spider-Man was the movie that even escalated it a step further. I remember watching episodes here and there of the Spider-Man and X-Men cartoons on Fox Kids. I was excited to see movie versions of them. I was 8 when that movie was getting announced, and it was PG-13, so my parents were we're not gonna let you go see this just yet. But then I read the novelization of it before I got to see the movie, so I was pretty much aware of the plot, plus a bunch of weird extra stuff that they crammed in there for some reason.
Sometimes those are deleted scenes. They get an earlier draft of the script to write the novelization on.
And then my oldest brother got it on DVD, and I remember watching it with some friends of mine at a sleepover that we had at my house. I got to see 2 and 3 both in the theaters, so I didn't live to regret that. It's definitely a movie that's had an impact in my life, even as the quote-unquote Marvel cynic of the Bomb Squad.
So, it's funny because I'm the one who hosts the podcast. I'm the one who wrote the question. I don't really have a specific Sam Raimi Spider-Man memory because for as long as I can remember, Sam Raimi Spider-Man has been a cultural force in my life. I don't remember a time before Spider-Man. Many, many podcasts ago, it's been a long time since I've referenced this, I have said that SpongeBob is my God, Shrek is my Jesus Christ, and Vin Diesel is my Holy Spirit. Just now I was thinking, I don't think that's entirely accurate. I'm going to take Vin Diesel out of there, and I'm going to slide Shrek on over, because I think the true configuration of my Holy Trinity is SpongeBob is my God, Shrek is the Holy Spirit, and Spider-Man died for my sins.
Does that make Vin Diesel Judas now?
Honestly, after he got Justin Lin kicked off, yeah, he is my f***ing Judas. Come on, Vin! What the hell? I wanted to be Spider-Man when I grew up as a kid. I wanted to be a superhero, and it's because of this movie. I have probably seen this movie over 100 times in my life. This movie is me. I don't think I exist as who I am today without this movie. The way, like, Fortnite probably feels to kids now is what Sam Raimi's Spider-Man felt to me as a kid. Like, it was all-encompassing. It was everywhere. It was the thing. But how do we feel about the it thing that started it all, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man? What do we think about it overall? Tim, I think we're going to start with you on this one.
So, the other day, I came home from work and I was just getting off an exhausting long shift. And then I opened my door and Tanner's sitting on my couch with a gun. And he says, all right, Tim, we did your anime month and now it's time for you to be on 2 of these Marvel podcasts. He pulls out his VHS tape of Spider-Man and says, all right, now put it in the VCR. And I go, Tanner, that's a toaster. And he says, I'm not taking any questions. I rewatched it yesterday, and I had actually rewatched the trilogy a couple months ago leading up to the Evil Dead podcast to just kind of see how Sam Raimi's style kind of bled into those. Again, I had a good time with it. It's just an always fun movie to watch. There's some parts of it that, like, it definitely feels like a relic of its time in some ways. Like, there's some dialogue that hasn't aged
Gay
super
joke.
well.
The gay joke.
Yeah.
You're talking about the gay joke.
What are you doing up there?
Staying away from you. That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
I like that joke.
You don't count. You have a husband.
I like that
Only
joke.
us straights are allowed to critique gay jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're not straight, Tanner.
Don't worry about it.
Warts and all, it's a really fun movie to watch. It's got some great fights. It's got Willem Dafoe is in it, and Willem Dafoe is great in everything. As I always say, give that man a script, he will still give you an incredible performance. Just watch Death Note. Yeah, it's just overall real good time.
All right, that's all stuff. I agree with Willem Dafoe. He's amazing and everything. Rein, first off, can we see the shirt again?
Of course. I was like, Tanner's not the only one who stands up in the middle of the podcast.
Yes!
It's so good.
There
We
it
all love it.
is! Oh god,
Yeah.
it was great!
He's ripped, ladies, and he's single.
What 1 year in LA does to a mother.
Anyway, then I was talking about the movie. It's I am very curious, like what a child like today would think of the movie.
I showed it to my sister back in December, and she said, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun of it. I don't think I like it as much as you simply because it is not the Spider-Man I grew up with. She was 13 when she said that. She is so smart.
I would imagine that's kind of representative of if most kids, like, they would be able to enjoy it because it is a very well constructed movie, but it is something where it's like just like how much heart it's on its sleeve. Like, it's the sort of thing where, like, as much as I like, it's something that really keeps me really enjoying this movie, you know, outside of just any sort of nostalgia, is just like how like goofy it is, just like completely like unironically, be it with all the spectators, be it with the camera work, be it with just
Not a lot of...
Granted, the last couple of MCU movies I feel like have been less, they've been getting a little better about that. Like,
They're getting better about it. They're getting
They
more
are.
back to their phase 1 way of doing it.
yeah, where it's not,
Yeah, this stupid.
honestly, the thing I really hate about that constant lampshading, I realize, because it just reminds me of like me as a teenager, how I would handle stuff like that. It's like, oh, you're constantly just laughing.
I like it ironically.
It's just like, it feels like a giant, like, oh, no one can make fun of me for enjoying this if I'm being ironic 24/7, which is why I'm sort of like sometimes why I have like the opposite extreme, why I really like these movies. Man, Tobey Maguire, he's a good actor. He should be in more. I mean, from what I understand, like, he just doesn't want to be.
Catch
in
him in
more
December
things.
as Charlie Chaplin in Damien Chazelle's Babylon.
Yeah. Hey, that would be cool. From my understanding, he just wants to mostly produce now.
From what I understand, he wants to play poker.
It's a good time. Movie good.
Well, Joe, since you decided to drink coffee, it's your turn. What do you think of Sam Raimi's 2002 motion picture, Spider-Man?
For starters, this is actually really coffee. But
You made it!
I know I did, and it's really
My brother
coffee.
in Christ, you made the coffee.
I can critique it because I made it, damn it. Anyway, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I said this in a Letterboxd review almost 2 years ago now when I rewatched some of Sam Raimi's movies. For me, that first Spider-Man movie is up there with Richard Donner's Superman as the near perfect origin movie. That being said, I still think Superman the movie is the better movie of the two. That being said, man, oh man, the technical craft that Sam Raimi just brings to this movie is on another level. If there's any like thing that I could complain about this movie, sure, some of the CGI effects look a little wonky, but
looks better than Black Panther.
As far as acting goes, it's like the only person I can complain about is James Franco, and not just because he's a piece of shit. He actually doesn't really work that well in this movie.
He's just not given anything to do. I talked to Austin about this today. He's just a dick.
So I do really like the scene where he's talking to Mary Jane. He's like, oh, well, here, what can I buy you? I'll buy you this. I'll buy you that. Like,
I will throw money at you to fix the problem.
It's reflective and scary. I think he performs that scene well, but yeah, otherwise, he just doesn't really have
like,
much.
Just cut to him saying, one day Spider-Man will pay. Yeah. Where he's like trying to say like Ditko-esque dialogue, and it just does not work.
One day Spider-Man will pay.
He gets better at it as the movies go on. But yeah, keep going.
He does get better as the series goes on, but he's particularly not really good in this.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, my God, this movie is just so much fun, and I think people have kind of pushed this one to the side as the years have gone on. Because, I mean, well, to be quite honest, Spider-Man 2 is the better movie. Spider-Man 2 is far and away the better movie. That being said, it's like, there's a lot of stuff in this that people just tend to overlook, from just how classic this movie feels like. I've heard people compare, like, some of the dialogue in this to like a Frank Capra kind of thing, but done in a modern setting.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like that at times, especially in the romance, which, speaking of, I actually really like the romance in this between MJ and Peter.
Overhated.
Yes.
It's overhated.
Yes.
It's a very cute romance.
That kiss was iconic as
Speaking of things that are just overlooked, I think Kirsten Dunst is overlooked in this movie.
Yep.
I think everybody on this character for no reason.
Yes. I was watching it today and I realized, holy shit, she's almost acting circles around almost everyone else in the movie. She is so good in it.
Kirsten Dunst is acting circles around pretty much everyone except for maybe Willem Dafoe, because, I mean, it's Willem Dafoe. That's hard. Her character work especially gets overlooked. Like, yeah, I get it. She needs to be saved a lot. And it gets kind of tired once you get to Spider-Man 3. Like, really? We're doing this again? But I think she has a very dynamic character in this, like, very specifically. Man, this movie's just fun. It's so much fun, and it's a nice little time capsule of the early 2000s and what superhero movies weren't yet. Like, this was an exciting chapter in the beginning of superhero movies, as they would come to be.
All right, Austin. I don't think I've ever really heard you talk about this movie, except for me sending you its praises in text and you being like, yes, I agree. So just kind of, what do you think of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man?
Well, this time around, I was fortunate enough to get to watch the open mat cut of Spider-Man 1, thanks to an anonymous donor, friend of the podcast, Ram Sammy. It's beautiful. So you can see sort of what was above and below the letterboxing that projectionists put up back in the day. Cool stuff like marks that the actors are supposed to hit, lights in the background, microphones dipping down, and a lot of matte boxes. It really humanizes the film, and in some cases makes it look like A24's Spider-Man, which is cool. Now, I totally forgot a scene, guys. The scene where Quest Aerospace is testing out the exoskeleton. My brain just 100% deleted that file from my mind. So it was like there was this part of the movie that I got to watch for the first time again. And man, when the Goblin just like flies in and blows everybody away, I got like a little taste of how hard the unbridled craziness must have hit people back in 2002.
And the transition?
Oh, with the hats! That is so incredible!
That's one of the most Raimi things about the movie.
It's amazing.
It was midnight, and I was laughing and hollering like I had won the lottery when I saw that.
You're like, he did it, those crazy sons of bitches did. You went full Goldblum in Jurassic Park.
I think that, like, the pacing in this movie is often really snappy, too. Like, around the time that there was the Macho Man Randy Savage scene, I was so impressed by how quickly they were getting through the plot beats. And one thing about this movie is how stock some of the lines sound. Like, my baby! That's my son! Look over there, it's Spider-Man! Like, real NPC in a video game ass energy. And it really worked because the movie's not supposed to make New York City complicated. There were a couple scenes between Kirsten Dunst and Toby that really stuck out as the only things for me that made the movie feel awkward. I get it. This movie won MTV Movie Awards Best Kiss in 2003.
2003 MTV Movie Award Best Kiss winner!
That scene of MJ and Peter talking in the hospital was brutal on me last night. No idea why. Conversely, that scene at the end where MJ tells Peter that she hoped she lived through the goblin attack just so she could see his face one more time, that rang my bell. That made me feel good. It's such a sincere, normal-ass blockbuster. Like, I think 9/11 colored a lot of superhero movies and gave them this dimension of complexity that sometimes worked and sometimes doesn't. But the Spider-Man trilogy is just this series of, like, trolley dilemmas and these acrobatic showdowns in an alternate universe where New Yorkers are lovable. Spider-Man 1 may still be the best superhero origin film ever made. It's like a bunch of tropes and archetypes thrown into a boggle shaker, but it's perfectly crafted. It deserves the recognition all these years later.
So I'm welcome to the first annual edition of Tanner's Thinking Corner, because I am going to analyze this movie through a class perspective. Because this is what I was thinking about when I was watching the movie today. Because here's the thing, I told Austin this. The thing I love about Spider-Man is he is truly the working class man superhero. He is a working class hero that comes from a working class family. That is inherent to his DNA. I like the John Watts MCU Spider-Man movies, but I feel like a lot of it's working class is aesthetic only, and there's never really anything there. With Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, it is there 100%. And I think this movie especially can be analyzed from a class perspective because look at his villain, the Green Goblin, a rich industrialist who has military contracts. I think there's an interesting thing about class being said here that I'm not smart enough to express eloquently, but if I had Austin's superpowers to make everything about the Iraq War, I probably could express it intelligently.
It's like you could even argue that Jameson even plays into that argument as a villain, as a big old capitalist pig.
He's a boss. But at the same time, he's a good boss because he stands up for his employees even when he's being choked by a crazy man in a Green Goblin costume.
Such a good scene.
This is true.
Such a good
scene. I love that scene so much. Truly, what it is class is at its DNA. And I think this is also accentuated by the fact that out of all of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, this feels the most New York to me. There's that whole montage scene where Lucy Lawless makes a cameo, where they're just going through all these random New Yorkers talking about what do they think of Spider-Man. He stinks, and I don't like him. And Lucy Lawless, got red hands. And of course, there's that scene, which I swear to God had to have been added after 9/11 happened, because it almost, it's a little bit of an awkward fit, but I kind of love it anyway, where all the New Yorkers are just throwing garbage at the Goblin, and he's like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And that's such a New York working class thing. If there's one thing that 9/11 did for the city of New York, at least very briefly, it made all of its working class feel very united in a common thing. And I think Sam Raimi's Spider-Man taps into that a lot. I think what this movie ultimately is, it's about a man who rises above those who would oppress the working class to become a champion for the working class. To me, I feel like even though these movies may be actually the least comic accurate in terms of actual one-to-one translation, but in terms of capturing the spirit of what Spider-Man is, which is a hero for the working class, by the working class, it's beautiful, and I think it captures that spirit well. And I think what really matters is Sam Raimi said this in an interview recently. He didn't want to wink at the audience with this one. He wanted to make this earnest and sincere and unironic, and I think it pays off in dividends. And one last thing about the working class thing. This one, Spider-Man movie, has the most emphasis on his parents. Not his parents' parents, like the Amazing Spider-Man Untold Story bull. Uncle Ben and Aunt May. I think Uncle Ben has earned a little bit of this. Dads! Rock! Baby! That's right, Uncle Ben is a father who rocks. The words, with great power. Oh my God.
Ding, 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 we got one! Gonna drink some coffee.
I think that's 20. With great power comes great responsibility. I hold in my heart dearly, and Uncle Ben delivers them perfectly. But what's our favorite scene, and maybe what we think about what Sam Raimi adds to the movie? Find out after this brief commercial break from PragerU. Maybe it's not PragerU, I don't know.
Let's hope.
with your own Spider-Man water squirter. One's free in specially marked Kellogg's packs.
Welcome back from commercial break, and welcome back to the Bomb Squad Spider-Cast. We're gonna just get right into this. What is our favorite scene in the movie? We're gonna start with me, so Joe Vrenick can't steal my answer.
Man, I was gonna steal it. I want to steal it.
Yeah, I know. I think we're all gonna say the same thing, so I want to go first. My favorite scene in this movie is probably the most iconic scene in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy in general, which is dark alleyway, rain, MJ's being attacked by a group of muggers, Spider-Man, which, by the way, man, when movies used to be dark, you could still see them. Remember that? That was nice.
I miss it.
I miss when movies were shot on film.
When Spider-Man beats up all the muggers that are attacking Mary Jane, and I think the most iconic shot of the entire franchise happens. Spider-Man hanging upside down from a web, Mary Jane removes his mask, and they kiss. It is heart-wrenchingly romantic. The action scene in it is really nice. It's beautifully shot. Everything that makes this movie great is on display here. Why am I crying? Why am I crying?
We got 2! Spider-Man 2, bitch!
Why am I crying? I just really love that scene, man.
You ain't
The Upside Down Kiss is the most iconic scene in the entire trilogy and the entire franchise, and arguably maybe even the most iconic scene in any superhero movie. Maybe only rivaled by, I hope this doesn't put you off from flying. Statistically, it's the safest way to travel. Joe V, since I stole your thunder, I'm sorry, but you can say anything that I didn't add.
Yeah, no, my pick is the Upside Down Kiss, because, well, for starters, that whole scene, MJ's just a long list of characters from my childhood, and she's the reason why I have a thing for redheads. Basically an iconic scene that just comes on and just announces itself as an iconic scene. That scene is so damn great that it's also the best part of the best episode of the hit television show The OC, motherfuckers! Yeah, I did it! I did that on my comeback episode! I brought back The OC!
I can't work in these conditions!
The Rainy Day Women, best episode of The OC, ends on a recreation of the Upside Down Kiss from Spider-Man. Easily the best moment of the show. Easily the best moment of the first Spider-Man. Back to you, Tanner.
Rein, was yours gonna be the Upside Down Kiss too?
On top of everything else everyone else said about that scene, I would say, like, while there might be, like, a movie kisses that, like, throughout the course of the film felt more earned because, you know, character arcs. But I would say, like, on a purely visual level, it has to be, like, the most iconic kiss ever, right?
I think it is. I think it is. When I think of movie kiss, I think of Upside Down Kiss.
Yeah, no.
I like the punch drunk love kiss. That's my favorite kiss.
That would be my actual number one, but I will say my runner-up will be, as I alluded to earlier, the scene where the Green Goblin attacks J. Jonah Jameson. I think it's just, like, a great, like, little bit of character writing. How this character, you know, is just such a smug ass piece of like, just, you know, love to hate him asshole boss we've all had. And then just, like, so, like, quickly we're able to, like, give him so much depth out of nowhere. It's like, when he's willing to, like, just sacrifice himself, not give it up. There's, like, so many things that, like, it could be a result of. Maybe he, like, secretly cares for Parker. Maybe it's just out of, just, like, loyalty. It could be a million things, and each thing, it could possibly be just, like, makes his character all the more interesting. The fact that we just don't know. It's just nice, simple character writing. Very great.
And can we mention J.K. Simmons, best casting in the movie other than Willem Dafoe?
We will talk about that in Trivia Corner. So, cool. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have another scene that I was planning to talk about, which is that first scene where, like, the Green Goblin comes in during the parade. That fight scene, I think, is just really great. It's such a great introduction to him as a villain. Rein, yes.
I met Macy Gray, who is the lady singing in the parade. Yes.
Why does Rein keep meeting celebrities and then not telling us about it? He told us he met Madonna like 3 weeks after it happened.
Anyway, continue.
But yeah, that's just a really fun set piece. Just a lot of great stuff going on, a lot of great fights. The bit where he throws the grenade and it just vaporizes the guys.
So good.
Like that I remember watching as a kid and being like, whoa, holy shit. Like that, I had never seen anything like that before.
That is some Sam Raimi ass man.
That's Evil Dead right there.
Yeah. I had never seen anything like that before in my life, and like, you look at it now, and the CGI hasn't aged super well, but back in 2002, that was some just state-of-the-art shit. Like, that looked incredible. It was crazy. There's a lot of great combat between Spider-Man and Green Goblin in that scene.
Impressive!
A lot of great, like, aerial combat, and there's the damsel in distress stuff going on, but, like, I think it's done in a way that's, like, really interesting and fun. Just overall, great scene.
Austin, on to you.
My favorite scenes are the sort of B horror movie inspired moments that largely went missing as superhero movies got more corporate. Stuff like the Green Goblin pretending to be an old woman roaming around in the fire just to jump scare Spider-Man. Or the Goblin blowing up the side of Aunt May's house because she slapped his hand away from the sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving. And then yelling at her.
Finish it!
And then yelling at her to finish Matthew 6:13 before she passes out from being too scared.
How can I forget about that scene? That's so good.
It's so good.
That's my actual answer.
I love it. I love how this movie's so grounded just so it can blow your mind when things get really out of control.
All right, all that stuff is great. Okay, this is going to be a fun one because this movie turns 20 years old and we got a lot of to talk about. So who's ready for... So there's a lot of stuff here. For example, this was going to be the start of a Marvel shared universe as Hugh Jackman was supposed to have a cameo as Wolverine in the movie. He even showed up to New York to film it. The entire plan was scrapped because the crew couldn't get access to his costume.
Oof.
You could just be Logan.
Just give him a wife beater and jeans.
That is more of a iconic Logan look than whatever the leather, whatever that is. When Peter Parker is testing out his webbing for the first time and he says things like, up and away web, Superman, Shazam, Captain Marvel. Fun fact, Tobey Maguire ad-libbed them. They weren't in the script. When Jameson's subordinates are trying to tell him about Spider-Man, one of them says, Eddie's been trying to get a picture of him for weeks. This is, of course, a reference to Eddie Brock, but what you guys may not know, they filmed a scene with an actor playing Eddie Brock. This actor, he was even told by Sam Raimi, we'll have big plans for this character, which sort of contradicts the whole thing with Spider-Man 3 about how Raimi didn't even know who Venom was if there was supposed to be seeds planted in the first one. But who cares? We have set photos, we can prove it happened.
It was Will Smith.
There was a camera system called the Spider Cam that was literally invented to express more of Spider-Man's world and point of view. It was able to drop 50 stories and with shot lengths of just over 2,400 feet or 3,200 feet and could shoot at 6 frames per second for a convey a sense of speed. This was like a super elaborate, incredibly advanced camera system for the time. It was only used in this film for the final sequence, but it was used more in the sequels. So, in this movie, if you notice when Uncle Ben describes his age, he says he's 68 years old. Cliff Robertson was 75 at the time of filming. However, makeup artists still needed to use makeup to make him look older. He was 7 years older than his listed age, but he still needed to look older. Baby, that's Hollywood right there. So, who's ready for some alternate castings? Who was almost J. Jonah Jameson? You guys ready for this?
Who?
R. Lee Ermey. Hugh Laurie. Harvey Fresnel. Dennis Fariana. Michael Keaton auditioned for the part. Fred Ward. And this isn't the only part he almost got in this movie, Bill Paxton. However, my favorite alternate casting for this movie, and this actor actually unironically auditioned for the part, was none other than the man himself, Stan Lee. Actually auditioned to play J. Jonah Jameson in this movie, and he didn't get the part.
Who is Spider-Man? He's a criminal, that's who he is. A vigilante, public menace.
Back to Cliff Robertson, aka Uncle Ben. This was his first film for Columbia Pictures in 25 years. Do you guys want to know why it was his first film in 25 years? Because the studio blacklisted him in 1977 when he discovered that his own signature had been forged on a check written by a studio executive, which he then discovered was used to embezzle money from the studio. Columbia wanted to sweep the scandal under the rug, but Robertson spoke publicly about it. That is hilarious. Imagine being like, hey, you know the guy that won an Oscar for playing Dumb Guy Gone Smart? Let's use him to embezzle. Just incredible work. Here are some guys that were almost Spider-Man. This actor campaigned for the part when James Cameron was attached, Charlie Sheen. I just want you to imagine Charlie Sheen Spider-Man for a moment, please. Just to picture that in your mind. Isn't it horrifying?
Ben Spider-Man.
Swinging.
Leonardo DiCaprio was obviously James Cameron's first choice when it was in there, but here are some other ones that either read or were close to getting the part. Freddie Prinze Jr., Scott Speedman, Jay Roden, James Franco. Heath Ledger was offered, but he turned it down. Michael Jackson wanted to play Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Stan Lee thought John Cusack would be great in the part. Wes Bentley was the fan favorite, while Frankie Muniz and Topher Grace read. The studio wanted Jude Law, and Josh Hartnett turned it down. I think we ultimately got the best pick out of all of these. However, I do desperately want to live in an alternate universe where it's Charlie Sheen.
I want to know Frankie Muniz. He was like a kid at that point. What the hell?
Yeah, he was still in Malcolm in the Middle, like early seasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it was a very different version of the movie. Here are some actors that were almost MJ. Alicia Witt, Mena Savari, Eliza Dushku, whose Reed is actually on the DVD special features, Kate Hudson, and Tara Reid. Fun fact, the guy that wrote this, David Koepp, he also wrote Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible, and The Lost World, which were the previous 3 records holder of number of the biggest opening weekend in America.
Wow.
Here are the actors that were almost the Green Goblin. Nick Cage!
Not surprised.
John Malkovich. Mel Gibson was offered and turned it down. John Travolta, Brad Dourif, Robert De Niro, who was also almost Doc Ock. Billy Crudup was offered the part, but the studio thought he was too old. And Bill Paxton, who, if you remember, was almost JJJ, allegedly finished second in the running for the role. Norman Osborn's condo was on the Warner Brothers production lot, where the production used to film a number of scenes. However, the condo set had also been used in Tim Burton's 1989 movie Batman, and Sam Raimi had to make sure he shot it in such a way that no one would notice. Around a half an hour in the movie where Uncle Ben drops Peter Parker off to go to the library, there's a bus scene driving by with a promotional advertisement that reads, The Producers, which is a Mel Brooks stage musical. We all know what The Producers are, right? Fun fact, Mel Brooks later sued Sony Pictures Entertainment for unwanted advertisement in a motion picture.
What the
What the hell,
I don't know. I couldn't find out anything more about it, but I could confirm it happened. All right, you guys ready for the directors that almost directed this movie?
Well, we all know James Cameron.
Yes, James Cameron. Chris Columbus rejected it in favor of Harry Potter. Tony Scott, David Fincher, Barry Sonnenfeld, Jan de Bont, Michael Bay, Roland Emmerich, Ang Lee, and perhaps the most intriguing option of them all, M. Night Shyamalan. I want to imagine a plot twist where it's revealed Spider-Man had like 7 the whole time or something. However, Raimi ultimately got the directing job because he was such a huge fan of the character. And finally, Ethan would kill me if I didn't bring this up. There wasn't enough money in the budget to execute Peter's dream sequence at the beginning of the movie when he first gets the powers the way it was scripted. So the entire segment was nearly scrapped. However, Bob Murawski, one of the 2 editors, pieced together the sequence together using shots from opening titles and stock footage from Sam Raimi's earlier film Darkman, and he used a single shot from Lucio Fulci's film The Beyond.
Yep.
That's right, there is a shot of The Beyond in this movie.
And it's incredible.
But that is all I have for trivia. So guys, final thoughts. Joe V, we'll start with you.
You know, my final thoughts are going to be simple. I'm just going to end on a quote from one Alfred Yankovic. Sling us a web, you're the Spider-Man. Sling us a web tonight, because we all sure could use us a hero now. And we think that you'll do all right.
Hell yeah. All right, Rein, how about you?
Macy Gray was a very nice and down-to-earth lady, it seemed like.
Oh my god, I swear to f***ing Christ.
It's probably
Rein,
the most
you
dated
lose your
thing about the
privileges.
movie.
Tim, you go next.
Movie groovy.
Yeah! Austin, what say you?
This was the original formula that took a Marvel movie to #1, and it was nice going back to formula.
Everyone else has said it. It's a classic. It's an excellent commentary on class within a superhero lens. It's a classic for a reason. The Upside Down Kiss is the most iconic kiss in the history of cinema. I love it to bits. It's an amazing movie for a reason. Now, before I do my outro, I want to plug something here real quick. Spider-Man Retold is a movie project that is currently in development where several filmmaking teams across the globe are repiecing Sam Raimi's Spider-Man piece by piece. And included in this excellent group of filmmaking crews is us. That's right, we are actually going to be recreating a scene from this movie for this picture. Mr. Peter Parker, will you please raise your hand?
That would be me.
Everyone give a round of applause to our own Peter Parker. I think he's gonna knock it out of the park, and we're lucky to have him.
Thank you. I'm Peter Parker. I'm a photographer.
But make sure you stay tuned for that. But you know what else is gonna be recreated in 20 years by a group of fabulous filmmakers?
Who?
You! the person watching / listening to this podcast. If you are listening to this podcast on any of the audio platforms we're on, thank you so very much for listening. Go ahead and go below and leave us a review, and it helps boost us in the algorithm. If you're watching this on Spotify video, I hope you enjoy our cursing, which I don't think we did a lot of this week. How about you go mosey on down to our Patreon and help make us money, because I still have yet to figure out how to monetize the Spotify video. If you do it, we'll put you in the end cards as little credits. And finally, if you are watching this video on YouTube, thank you so very much for watching. Please go down to the comment section below and let me know, what do you remember of Sam Raimi Spider-Man as a cultural force? What's your favorite Raimi Spider-Man memory? What do you think of Sam Raimi Spider-Man? What's your favorite scene? And finally, if you got bitten by a radioactive spider, would you then be worried you'd kill your future wife with your radioactive Comment below and let me know. And while you're down there, hit the like button so we know how much you like us, hit the subscribe button so we know how much you love us, and hit the bell icon so I can learn how to climb on walls and sneak into your home. Thank you again so very much for watching. Tune in next week, because the Sam Raimi Marathon hasn't ended yet, where we talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is going to be an awesome one. It's going to be a fun podcast, guys. You won't want to miss it. Joe and I are actually about to leave to see it.
Yeah, wrap this up so we can go.
Bye.
Just so you know, I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility. This is my gift, my curse. Who am I? I am the Bomb Squad!
Going to die.
Just slid my ticket across the table and I said, sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl.